we're going to be talking about the issuance of common stock. And there's several different scenarios. First one, you issue common stock at its par value. So, and you know what, this would be the same for preferred stock, except that in the account titles, you don't use the word common stock, you use preferred stock. You're issuing 1,000 shares of $1 par value common stock for $1,000, or it would basically be at its par value, because $1 times 1,000 is 1,000. So the journal entry to do that is debit cash for $1,000 and credit common stock for $1,000. Now, assume that we issue additional shares of stock. Okay, we're going to say an additional 1,000 shares at $5 a share. Okay, so it's still dollar par value. So you're going to debit cash for 1,000 times 5, which is $5,000. And you're going to credit common stock $1,000 times 1. I didn't leave myself much room there. And 1 is the par value. And then the paid in capital in excess of par value. So I'm abbreviating that, paid in capital in excess of par value on common stock. And that's going to be for the excess over par value that it was issued. So that's 4,000. Okay, another scenario is we issue no par stock, but it has a stated value. And you basically do the same as you did up here with par value, except that instead of writing paid in capital in excess of par, you would write paid in capital in excess of stated value. So we're issuing 5,000 shares, no par stock, $5 stated value at $8 a share. So we're going to debit cash for the 5,000 times the $8 a share, which is 40,000. We will credit common stock, and the entry to common stock is always the number of shares, 5,000, times the par or the stated value. In this case, it's $5. So 5 times 5,000 is 25,000, and then we have a paid in capital on common stock. And what I should have written up here, it's just that there's such a long account title, is paid in capital in excess of par value, and here it's paid in capital in excess of stated value. And when you look in your text, you can see that's what they're writing. But the important thing is that it goes into the paid in capital account. Another scenario is you issue stock that has no par value and no stated value. So if we were going to do this same example that we did up here, except there was no stated value, you would just debit cash for the 40,000 and credit common stock for the 40,000. There's no paid in capital in excess of stated or in excess of par, because there is no par or stated value. Okay, so now we have another one scenario. You issue common stock for services. This is common with companies that are starting up and they don't have any cash, so they'll use their own common stock to pay things that normally they might pay with cash. So we have attorneys build a new company called for $5,000 for helping them incorporate. The new company is called Freedom Inc. The attorneys agreed to get paid in stock, and they're going to receive 4,000 shares of $1 par value common stock from Freedom Company. So this is the Freedom Inc. common stock. So on Freedom Inc.'s books, they are going to debit an account called Organization Expense, which basically are all the costs involved to get your company organized, like legal fees and licensing fees, etc., for the amount of the bill from the attorneys, which was $5,000. Then instead of crediting cash, they're issuing stock, so they will credit common stock for the number of shares times the par value, so that would be 4,000, and the excess goes in paid-in capital of common stock. Paid-in capital in excess of par, but I'm just lazy and I'm not going to write that whole account title out. Okay, now, so we have another example here. Freedom Inc. buys land recently advertised for $90,000. Now, it doesn't have cash, but it's going to issue 10,000 shares of its stock instead of paying cash. The stock that it's going to issue has a par value of $5 and is actively being traded for $8 a share. So there's a little conundrum here. $8 times 10,000 shares means that they're paying $80,000 for the stock, or for the land. But it was advertised for 90. But a better, what you want to use to record is the par value, or the market value of the stock, rather than what the land is advertised. Because the truth is, you can advertise something for 90,000, but until you actually sell it, you don't really know what it's worth. So the fact that they're saying giving 10,000 shares times 8 means the land must be worth 80,000, or else they wouldn't make the sale. So the journal entry is you're going to debit land for the 10,000 shares, and you're going to use the current market value, which is $8, because that's what they're paying for, $80,000. The common stock, again, account is credited for 10,000 shares times the par value of $5, which would be $50,000, and the excess $30,000 is paid in capital in excess of par on common stock. So just to be clear, you never look at the par value when you're determining the worth of the land. You always go by the market value. Now, if this stock wasn't actively traded, if it was at the very beginning of the company and there was no current market price, then you would have to go with $90,000 divided by 10,000. You'd have to show that you sold it, or you bought it for $90,000. But because the stock is actively traded, then that's going to determine how much we paid for the land.